Asking for a second opinion, let's stop doing that, because you deep down, you probably know like what decision you want to make, but you're just too scared to do it. Honestly, this is me preaching to myself because, you know what? It's fine. We're fine. We are working through it, okay? You have to build your reputation with yourself as someone who is reliable and someone who can accomplish these things. So say like you want to work out more. You have to build rapport with yourself as someone who goes to the gym, someone who eats healthy, someone who meditates every single day. You know what I mean? You have to build that reputation with yourself through repetitive actions, through small steps. Hi everyone, you're listening to Transplants, the podcast for 20-somethings moving to a new city and trying to navigate all the trials and tribulations that come with it. I'm your host Joyce, and today we're going to be talking about how to trust yourself, because moving can be hard, but even deciding to move and deciding to take that leap can be super difficult when you don't trust yourself. And maybe at this point you don't even recognize that you don't trust yourself, because that distrust is manifesting as different things right now, like self-doubt, insecurity, etc., etc. So we're going to talk through all those things today. This is a topic that's been sitting on my heart recently, because at this point it is December 2023. The new year is right around the corner, and I've been thinking a lot about my future and like the things that I want, and like, do I even trust myself to accomplish the things that I want? So we're going to talk through all the things today. But before we get into the topic of discussion, just wanted to do a little mental health check-in. There is a lot going on in the world right now. A lot of sad, unspeakable things happening. It's also winter in a lot of different parts of the world. So, you know, the seasonal blues, the winter blues are happening. People are getting sick. It's the holidays, even though the holidays, you know, are cheery and bright for a lot of people. They may not be for other people. So it's just a lot going on right now. I am like a little congested, so sorry if I sound very nasally during this episode, but just want to extend, you know, a loving hand to everyone out there who may be going through it this season. Hopefully you tuned into the last episode. I interviewed one of my friends, Tara, and we talked about, you know, navigating post-move blues and seasonal depression. So hopefully that episode, you know, provides you a little bit of comfort and tips when going through this season, if that's something that affects you. But yeah, just a friendly reminder to take some time for you if you can during this time, and prioritize your rest, your restoration, your happiness, because that is what is ultimately important. Okay. Now that we've done our little mental health check-in, let's talk about trust. I feel like this episode will especially be helpful for people who are like in the process of maybe planning or deciding if they want to make a big move, because obviously there's a lot of different factors that go into considering if you want to move or not and all that fun stuff. But I think trust is a big thing, because you might not even trust yourself to, one, go through with the move, or also like build a life for yourself in your new city. So we're going to unpack all those things. But touching on a little bit of what I said in like the intro, I think distrust can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. For me personally, at least recently, it's been manifesting as like self-doubt and insecurity, because I think a lot of our generation can relate to like comparing ourselves to people on social media, on, you know, Instagram, TikTok. We're just seeing people's highlight reels. We're not seeing the full story, but, you know, our brains don't register that sometimes. So it's so easy to be like doom scrolling, or like seeing people's accomplishments, seeing people move to the big city, have $1 million businesses, blah, blah, blah. And then comparing that to our own lives and feeling like so left behind, so defeated and things like that. But I think that comes from like not trusting yourself to accomplish the same things. Like you don't trust your ability to accomplish those things. And that can manifest as like you projecting, you being insecure, whatever. I think another example, or like a way that distrust shows up, is like self-sabotage, especially within like friendships, relationships, whatever. Especially if you might be like a late bloomer like myself. Like I've never been in like a serious relationship. I'm not saying I'm gonna do this one in my first relationship, but I could picture myself or like someone likely self-sabotaging when they get into like their first relationship because they may not trust how they would be as like a girlfriend, boyfriend, partner or whatever. Like, does that make sense? Because you've never really experienced that. So you don't know how you're going to behave in that situation. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But maybe that can manifest in other ways, like being a cheater. Oh, not I. But like if you've experienced maybe cheating in a past relationship, you may be in a relationship and not trust yourself to leave another cheater, if that makes sense. Those are just like me spitting off the dome, like examples that I could think of, but it manifests in different ways. All of that I think is rooted in like your self-efficacy and your ability to take care of yourself and your ability to make decisions and follow through on them. And at the end of the day, I think that's just the name of the game, right? That's really life. You just have to like make decisions, follow through with them, and just see what the outcome is. And I think that fear or whatever you may be feeling that's holding you back is just something that you need to really like sit down and work through and think about like, where is this coming from? Because, oh, excuse me. It can come, that burp wasn't as big. You know what? It's fine. There's been bigger burps on this podcast. But anyways, that's something that you really need to think about because it can come from a lot of different sources, like, you know, how you were raised in your childhood. Maybe growing up, you were told not to do certain things, or if you did, like, you would receive this type of attention or this type of consequence or whatever. Certain life experiences, you know, that distrust can be rooted in various different things, but it's super important for you to sit down and unpack all of that so that you can get to the root cause and then set yourself up for success moving forward. After thinking about how distrust shows up in your life, I think it's super important for you to, one, give yourself grace, because you are only a human being, baby girl, and everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days, as Miss Hannah Montana said. And that's truly just the name of the game of life. You are bound to make mistakes. You are bound to mess up, and you will never not mess up. But that, at the end of the day, is going to be a learning experience, another tool under your belt that will help you do better going forward, hopefully. For example, if you made a decision and it turned out bad, let's reframe that and think of that as a learning opportunity rather than like a failure, because seeing the negative in every situation is just not going to get you anywhere in life. Because why have a negative outlook on life and like all your past experiences when you could have a positive outlook? Definitely like take the time to recognize, you know, what you went through and like the repercussions of said decisions, said experiences, whatever. It's definitely important to acknowledge all of that, but don't sit within the bad feelings, if that makes sense. So now let's talk about how to build trust again. I think generally speaking, you have to start with the small tasks to get to the big. So first of all, let's start off by celebrating your small wins, because in any relationship you have in life, like for example, work specifically, especially when you start a new job, you have to build rapport like with your boss, with your coworkers and cross-functional partners, your HR rep or whatever. You have to build rapport that, you know, you're a good employee, you can follow through on tasks, you can meet deadlines, whatever. And then that rapport can help you, you know, get promotions, help you get more money, help you get references for future jobs, whatever. So that like external rapport with like other people is important. So then flipping that on its head, you have to build rapport with yourself. You have to build your reputation with yourself as someone who is reliable and someone who can accomplish these things. So say like you want to work out more. You have to build rapport with yourself as someone who goes to the gym, someone who eats healthy, someone who meditates every single day. You know what I mean? You have to build that reputation with yourself through repetitive actions, through small steps. And after building on all those small steps, you'll build the reputation with yourself that you are someone who can accomplish big things. And that self-doubt, that insecurity will become less and less prevalent in your life over time. Okay, so for example, say you're someone who wants to work out more often. Say you want to work out 4 times a week. That's the goal that I've set for myself. But now that it's winter, that is so hard because I don't want to drive to the gym in the morning when it's 24 degrees outside. Like, I'd rather sleep in my warm, comfy bed. But you know what? These abs are not going to maintain themselves, okay? And we're working through it. So I have not, I haven't finished this book. I probably should. But there's a super famous self-help book called Atomic Habits that I started at some point and never finished, LOL. But I think the biggest like tangible thing that you can pull from that book is the 2-minute rule. So if you're trying to build a new habit, do something for 2 minutes that will help you get the ball rolling on like a specific task. So actually, let me not apply this to the working out thing. LOL. If you want to read more books, say you want to read like 10 books a year, set out your book and time yourself to read 2 minutes. And hopefully by the end of that 2 minutes, you are like starting to get invested and you can read longer than 2 minutes. And that will help you get the ball rolling. Or I think in the book, he also talked about making things easier for you to do and like setting yourself up for success. So back to the working out example, LOL. Say you have your yoga mat, set out your yoga mat in somewhere that's visible and like accessible for you to use. So it's not like a hassle for you to get it out and start your workout, blah, blah, blah. Like set out your yoga mat, set out your workout clothes in somewhere that's visible, somewhere that it can haunt you, somewhere that you have to like physically look away and you'll feel guilty for not using it because it's literally right there in your lap ready for you to use. Like, why not use it? Okay, hopefully those 2 tips will help you like get the ball rolling on like these small tasks that you want to do and these small tasks that will help you like build up to the big things. And as you continue to do those things and continue to build on those skills, it's so important for you to reward yourself and not punish yourself for achieving things. I think it's super important. This ties back to like how you frame things up. I've been doing like a lot of, I guess, research / internal work on like setting goals for myself and reframing like a goal and thinking of it rather as like, I don't know, like a strategy, a tactic. I don't know. I'm still working through it, but in, I guess, self-help research, they say that setting a goal is like not good because if you don't accomplish that goal, it's like the end all be all, like the end of the world, like I'm a failure, I can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of like self-help content, I think over the past few years has talked about reframing like what a goal is and how to accomplish said goal. So I've been trying to reframe like my goals as like intentions and being more strategic about how to achieve those things through like different tactics, strategies, or whatever. I try to break things down in like a 12-week format. There's this really good book called The 12-Week Year that I read at the beginning of 2023 that I've been trying to like implement in my life and make sure that I'm like setting myself up for success in terms of not thinking that I'm like a failure when I don't accomplish said things, which is something that I'm still working through, especially, being a high achiever, going through life, getting, straight A's, doing all the extracurriculars, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. It is hard for a recovering try hard out here, okay? But yeah, I think it's super important for you to reframe your goals and like things you want to accomplish in life, because when you don't achieve those things, you can't like, throw yourself into a spiral, because it's not the end of the day. It's a learning experience. We all go through it. It's so important to be self-aware, but not self-deprecating, because like I said, you are a human being. You are going to mess up, and the important thing is how you respond to those slip ups and how you recover from them. So yeah, be very intentional about how you go about, setting goals or accomplishments you want to achieve in your life, as well as like how you respond to yourself when you maybe achieve or don't achieve said goal, for lack of a better word, because the way you speak to yourself is super important, and that repetitive action will build up into something greater. But being intentional is so important, especially when you're going through the decision making process of, again, wanting to make a move, or considering a career or whatever it may be. Being intentional is so important, because I think, especially when you don't trust yourself, you are kind of like paralyzed in the sense of making a decision, and then like you keep going back and forth, blah blah blah, and then at the end of the day you don't make a decision, or the decision is made for you and you're like, well, this is not what I wanted. So being intentional and fully committing is something that I encourage you to do, because even if you're scared or like you don't trust yourself to achieve a certain outcome, one, reframe that, and hopefully this episode helps you reframe that. But two, that goes back to like building rapport with yourself, because the ability to make a decision and then follow through on it is a skill that you just have to learn, and you just have to like build up over time. And I know that can be difficult, like even thinking on my own experience. Like I am definitely someone who will like ask for a second opinion on almost everything. Like, oh, should I buy this top? Should I go do this thing? Should I do this? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, girl, you know what you want to do at the end of the day. Why are you asking people's opinions? Because you're not even going to like consider what they say. You just want like an external validation, an external data point to help you, when it's not even helping you at the end of the day. And you know what? I will hold my hands up. It's really not something that I like admitting, but you know what? Me and you, sister, we the same for real. But yeah, I think asking for a second opinion, let's stop doing that, because you deep down, you probably know like what decision you want to make, but you're just too scared to do it. Honestly, this is me preaching to myself, because, you know what? It's fine. We're fine. We are working through it, okay? That likely comes from like you making your own decisions in the past, and they were probably like criticized or rejected growing up, or like your decisions were made for you. I think especially coming from like an immigrant household, this is no shade, no tea to like my parents or anything, but like I think immigrant parents are, a lot more strict, generally speaking, not speaking for everyone, but just generally speaking. And so like growing up, it's hard for you to make your own decisions and just kind of like form your own identity in a sense, which I think is where that comes from. Ooh, look at me unpacking. But if that's you, I definitely see you, and I'm speaking from experience, but over time I think you just got to learn to like commit. You got to commit to the bit and learn from it, because that at the end of the day will help you in the long run and help you, find your own identity, find your own stride in this life, and feel more confident. I think generally speaking, self-trust leads to self-confidence, because if you trust yourself to, accomplish certain things, that you can, accomplish these things. You have the confidence to do these things, and no one can tell you different, because you have the track record to prove it. So I think everything is connected. If you're not feeling that confident, think about if you even trust yourself. And hopefully that can lead you to a new discovery. What is the word? Not eureka moment, epiphany. Yes, hopefully that leads you to some kind of epiphany. I think this was a little bit of a shorter episode today, but in conclusion, I think being rooted in truth and being rooted in who you are will help you walk with confidence and help you like walk with purpose, and that will help you like attract the right people in your life that will help you, accomplish what you want to accomplish. It will help you find your community, find your tribe, and ultimately, at the end of the day, find yourself. And isn't that life? I think building that self-trust will help you get there. And hopefully this episode will help you start to recognize how distrust shows up in your life and start to unpack those feelings, those emotions, and hopefully help you make some strides in rebuilding that trust with yourself again. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. So yeah, friendly reminder that you got this, you are capable, you've accomplished all of this so far. Like, remember where you came from, look at what you've already done. Why can't you keep going? You know what I mean? You got this. And if you ever feel like you don't, call me up and I'll give you a little pep talk, okay? I'd like to think I'm good at those. But in conclusion, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Transplants. I hope it was helpful. Please be sure to follow Transplants on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars and leave a comment, because apparently you can do that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, that is it for today's episode. Tune in next time, and remember, you're not as alone as you think.